Baie welkom van my kant af. Goeienaand gemeente. Greetings to everyone here. In a small little way we try to break the chain of separation. You know, we pretty much still live in a country where people live apart, they live in different worlds, at least a different world of understanding of each other. So the two of us, Xola and myself, started the journey about 8 years, I think.
2006. I'm terrible with maths.
Yeah. It's about 8 years. And in the beginning we spent a lot of time in building a friendship and then writing a book about the different worlds, and we called it Roads to Bridges. I could lay my hand on 2 copies, and I want to give one to a way of life person and one to a Vredelust person. Who want to read the story of our journey together and as churches? There is one over there. And dankie Clement. En Vredelust daar, kom maar Aand. Gaan gee gou daar vir daai mooi meisie daar aan die kant. Both of them. Why the beautiful girls getting the books?
I think they must come back and give us a book review, the two of them later on. Right.
Yeah, so it's a privilege and an honor to introduce for you who are new Pastor Xola Skosana. He's always been somebody that's a little bit outside of the box. I think he's,
just a little bit.
Like in my community, I've got a certain ministry, but I think he even has got more what's the word, worse than myself, the ministry of stirring. The ministry of stirring. So he's stirring all over the country. And right now he's also the chairman of the, what do you call it, religious?
Western Cape Religious Leaders Forum.
The religious leaders, when the government wants to talk to, they can't take one church. And then there is all other kinds of religions as well. So they have a forum where the government can talk to them, or they can talk to the government. So he's leading the Western Cape Forum at the moment. So even in that sense, he's doing a lot of work. So let's give him a hand, and thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you, Leon. Well, good evening to you. Once again, I have not been in this beautiful auditorium. The last time I was here, you were still in the little hall on the other side. And I used to come here quite often, but I since have been scaled down and reduced to just one service a year. That's fine. Okay. I'm going to have to leave everything in this one service, knowing that I'm only coming back next year. Okay? Yeah. You know the story of the preacher who preached the entire Bible in one service. You know, one man showed up and he said, "Should we have this service tonight, or should we just postpone it? You know, if it's just one person who showed up." So the man on the floor, who happened to be a farmer, he says, "Well, I've got cattle, and if I go out to feed them, you know, and just one shows up, I feed that one." Oh, I shared this story last time I was here. Okay. Anyway, so of course the preacher preaches the whole Bible, and 3 hours later he asks, "How was the service?" And the man says, "Well, like I said, you know, if one cattle shows up, I do feed the cattle, but I don't feed him the whole fodder at once, you know. So I keep some, you know, so yeah. Well, I hope the stuff I want to share with you tonight will really, I may be talking to a converted audience here, but I think we must take the message to our coffee shops and companies and homes and schools. We cannot just have this conversation here and not engage our friends and our colleagues. So I'm inviting you into a very deep conversation, which I think is critical for our time and for the church, for society. Today, the title of my message is Carnage in Black Society. And I look for the word carnage because I think it expresses the graphic horrors of black pain in the townships in South Africa today, the massacre that is happening, the horrific, horrendous brokenness of lives. And so I'm inviting you to join with me in this conversation as we reflect tonight on the scriptures. Now, I sat in an office in 1995 in Gugulethu. I just finished my studies and I was employed by a Christian organization, and they gave me an office in Gugulethu in 1995, 20 years ago. And I sat in that office and I received an invitation to attend what they called a stakeholders meeting, which was going to be different sectors of the community, and they were going to discuss about the future of Gugulethu. And so I was excited in that meeting. One person said something. I don't remember much about that meeting. I mean, all has just faded away, but I remember this one thing which was pronounced in that meeting, and this is how it was said. It was framed in this way: we are going to turn Gugulethu into a suburb in 10 years. This was 1995. We are going to turn Gugulethu into a suburb in 10 years. There was excitement. There was a dream to live for. I was energized by this. I was really inspired. Everybody was captivated by the dream. Now the images that you see on the screen come from Zim Kita, who is extremely gifted. I just write the sermon and I give it to her, and then she looks for images that will bring it out for people who are visual. So this is what we dreamt about in 1995, that Gugulethu will become a suburb. And of course, today we can boast of a beautiful mall in Gugulethu. Shopping mall. We have a shopping mall. It's one of the decent shopping malls in Gugulethu. And so you could really say that part of that dream came true, right? And, well, I don't know. Let's reflect on the next slide, which is Langa. Langa is the oldest township in Cape Town, established in 1923. Gugulethu became an extension of that in the 60s. And you wonder if really, can we say that dream of turning townships into healthy, living, habitable spaces, has that come true in this last 20 years? Now, there is another mall. They call it a shopping mall in Khayelitsha. Khayelitsha, of course, is the largest black township in Cape Town. I looked at the stats in 1996. Khayelitsha was established in 1983. It was meant for 300,000 people. By 1996, the number had grown to 700,000 people. The number had over doubled for a place that was meant for 300,000 people. And the projections were that by the year 2000, that number was going to double again. If the stats are correct today, we're easily talking about close to 2 million people in Khayelitsha today, with just one swimming pool, 3 stadia. Everything is overcrowded. If you don't die of XDR TB, you'll die of some other disease in some overcrowded taxi or overcrowded train or overcrowded classroom or overcrowded clinic, wherever you go, just overpopulation. So I want to submit to you today that that dream that was in that room in 1996 or 95, that dream was deferred. That dream died. It died somewhere between 1995 and 2015. But it just did not die. That dream died, but that dream also killed even children who were not born in 1995. Children who were born later had to be born into a context and a space that took away their dreams, took away their potential. Some of you may have seen this murder of a 10-year-old in August last year. This is a horrific story which I think tells us what has happened to South African townships. This is a young girl who comes back from school. She's only 10 years old. She lives with her 3 uncles, her mother, and her grandfather. When she comes home that day, unassumingly innocent little girl, I have a 9-year-old myself. She comes back home that day, and she does not know that the 3 uncles have resolved to kill her mother, to kill her. And so when she comes back home, they have this Wendy house. They have a 2-bedroom house. In the backyard, they have a Wendy house where the uncles live. And so what happens, the uncles strangle this 10-year-old to death. But even more than that, one of the uncles actually decides to rape her. How do you make sense of this when uncles turn on their own niece, 10-year-old, not just rape her but kill her horrifically? In fact, one of the uncles goes out to the community. While the community is out looking for a child who's disappeared, one of the uncles joins in the parade while the community is looking for. And he knows that the child is busy dying in the hands of her own uncles in Gugulethu. What's the point of this story? Let me go further. That story says this sibling strife that was happening there. The daughter said to the 3 uncles, to her own brothers, when the surviving parent, when our father dies, I'm going to chase you out of this house. This is what was happening. There was sibling strife. They were fighting for inheritance. Who is going to inherit the 2-bedroom house? And the sibling strife became so ugly that they were ready to kill each other so that whoever survives can inherit that old, wretched 2-bedroom house in Gugulethu. The dream of converting Gugulethu into a suburb died. Did not just die, but it killed a little girl. There are sections of our townships where you cannot put your foot on. No-go areas. Literal war zone areas. Where children, the disabled, young women are raped and victimized by men who have no stake in society, who have been excluded, unemployed, have lost all sense of dignity and worth. They live from their primal instinct. No sense of right or wrong. Townships have remained hubs of cheap labor as it was intentionally and historically meant, but it has gone further than that. It has become a breeding ground for all kinds of social ills. If you are HIV positive in Khayelitsha and HIV positive in Wynberg, the effects are not the same. If you are unemployed in Khayelitsha, unemployed in Claremont, effects are not the same. What we have failed to do in this country was to demolish the structure of human settlement, the ongoing separate development which traps people in under-resourced areas. They're beginning to turn on each other now like animals. There is something wrong about how we something wrong about how we value human beings in this country. I'm gonna jump into last slide. I want to go to the scriptures, Exodus chapter 3, verse 7. Exodus chapter 3, verse 7 says, "The Lord said, I have indeed seen. I, the Lord, I have indeed seen. With my own eyes, I have seen the misery of my people." I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers. I am concerned about their suffering. I do not know if we can find any authenticity in being children of God. I do not know if we can lay claim to being Christians anymore if we do not respond to human pain. The only credibility in being a Christian and being a child of God, the only reason we should say that we are God's children is because we live to respond to human pain. Anything else is self-serving. Anything else is self-enriching. Anything else is self-entertaining. God responds to his children's cry. I have seen their misery. Now, the pain is so loud and so horrific that we have increased the volume of our worship to drown the voices of that pain. We have made our speakers even louder, especially in the township. You know, we've got the biggest amplifiers and the biggest speakers and the biggest, because we don't want to hear the voice of that 10-year-old who's being strangled to death and raped by her own uncle. The pain of blackness in black townships is so overwhelming that let's rather give ourselves to alcohol and drugs and or go to church and just go into some form of craziness, numb our pain. I've seen the misery. I've lived 24 years of my life in the townships of South Africa. I am insulted by every day I woke up in those townships. My worth and my dignity is insulted. I know it does not correspond with the worth and the dignity that I am created with. When I look at littered streets and broken windows and sewages that are running down the streets, I am screaming inside because this is an insult to my psyche, my worth, my dignity. And yet there are people who do not have a choice, who must wake up into that insult and live with it and internalize that insult until they believe that message. They begin to insult themselves and insult everybody else who looks like them. Xenophobia is nothing but self-hatred. People who have been hated and insulted and have accepted that insult and are ready to extend it to themselves, that is anything else that looks like them. We've got to stop this carnage. We've got to stop the carnage in black townships. It is not enough to build people RDP houses. It is not enough to just build an extra little school and do this and do. We've got to break the very policy of human settlement. South Africa needs integrated human settlement policies so that people can grow in decent environments that enables them, that speaks to their worth, speaks to their dignity. How can we subject people to degradation and under-resourced, underdeveloped, and degraded environments and think that they are going to become responsible citizens? It's not possible. It's not possible. So the role of the church is to respond to human pain, to be bold enough, and this church has been bold enough. I know that. You, probably one of the only two churches that have voted for, not against, but for the Belhar Confession. And I know what you've done here for many, many years. Leon is one of your crazy people here in the Dutch Reformed Church. He's called a rebel and all kinds of things. Been very, very bold. But we've got, Leon, we've got to be even bolder. We've got to be even more courageous. The pain of this country is too much. We cannot normalize what is abnormal. We cannot accept it just because it's always been like that. It's not acceptable, not in God's sight, not in the God we worship. Not in the God we worship, who has created each one of us in his own image. And so we've got to be even stronger, more courageous. We've got to respond to black pain. And I call it black pain because this pain has a definite face. And that face is black. I am here to extend a hand to you. You join us as we seek to respond to the brokenness and the pain of our society and use the only thing we have, the gospel of Jesus, the love of God, and seek out and call out for justice. We've got to hold leaders of this country responsible, but we must hold each other too responsible. We cannot just point a finger to anybody else. We've got to begin with ourselves. If we call ourselves the Church of Jesus, we've got to cry out. If God says, I have seen the misery, it's not a popular message or even a popular gospel that I am preaching here tonight. You know, people want to forget about these things. When you wake up and you go to work tomorrow, this is the pain you're going to meet. Of course, it will be disguised. It will be in jeans and Levi's and Cavellas. It will be in sunglasses. This is the pain you're going to see. These people are going to wake up under that place. They're going to wake up under this place. But when they come to your workplace tomorrow, they're going to dress up for it. They're going to hide this pain. And they're going to put up a brave face. They're going to laugh at your jokes. But they are broken inside. Take time. Call them aside. Be there for them. Be attentive to their pain. You see, they may even be driving a Mercedes-Benz or even a BMW, but it does not mean that they've escaped the pain of blackness. In fact, they have numbed it because their identity is connected with their mother and their uncle and their friend who still lives in that RDB house, trapped in the harshness of township life. I've heard the misery of my people. I wish following Jesus was easier than this. I wish it was just a nice jol. But not in South Africa. It cannot be. We have a choice to make, to wake up each day and to ask the tough questions. We can blame, of course, Nkandla and ANC and Zuma, and they must be blamed for managing this affair. But we must be sincere. We must be sincere. As we blame Zuma, we must be able to say, black pain is a direct consequence of white power and the preservation of white privilege. I'm giving you that homework. When you wake up, we're talking about a systemic structure of our society that's unyielding, that produces angry people, that produces sick people. How long will that continue? Where is the voice of reason? Who will be the prophet in white society and say, life cannot continue in this fashion? We may not have, and young people will say this, of course, we were not there, we are not party to this. But today you wake up each day and you must make a choice. What is your contribution to South Africa today? Make it a livable place. May God be with you. Thank you.